Hi y'all, this is House Guest and I am your host, Kenzie Elizabeth. Think a Gen Z wannabe Martha Stewart meets Dolly Parton trying to live in a Nancy Meyers movie in her 20s. We talk all about life, relationships, navigating your 20s, closing out the bars, or waking up at 5 a.m. depending on our vibe that week. Ultimately, living our best lives and figuring it out along the way. So come hang out. Sometimes I have guests on who do really cool things, some of my best friends, or it's just me and my house that I spend way too much time in. So let's get into the show. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to let y'all know that the House Guest holiday, winter collection is now available. I'm wearing my favorite piece. It is our cute little polo shirt. It has a House Guest embroidered HD. Looks adorable. The quality's insane, guys. I got this back and I couldn't believe it. I'm wearing a medium right now. I have an extra large. I'm obsessed with this. And Jack, Jack, who is a friend of the show, it was approved by her. She loves it and says it's so cute and it's just it's everything. So we have this in a chocolate brown. It's a long sleeve. It's unlike any other merch you've ever seen before. And I am obsessed with it. And then we have this in pink as well. I just don't have it on me. We also have these cute little striped crew necks that has our House Guest house, which honestly, I didn't even mean for this to happen, but it really does look like Rose Hill Cottage. I obviously did not design this. If only I could do that. It's actually kind of everything. I love it. We have our House Guest tag. I always get larges and extra larges, but very cute. Just this cute little striped crew. So fun. It looks like a lot of the crews that I see on TikTok. And then the thing I'm actually second most excited for, we have this House Guest hat. It's this chocolate brown embroidered house hat, okay? And then it says House Guest on the back. Look at how cute this would be. My Dallas girls walking Katy Trail with it, wherever you are, West Side Highway. I don't know your story, but would love to, okay? Anyway, so this is out now. This hat is so cute. I cannot wait to wear this. And then we actually have new aprons as well, which I'm really excited for. We have our Breadwinning Housewife aprons that are actually, I think, still available on the site, but these are our new ones. The House Guest House. Oh, that's backwards. Sorry. The House Guest House aprons. They're really, really cute. The perfect gift to give. Treat yourself this holiday winter season, if you will. Okay. So anyways, love these. These are all available on our merch website now. So I hope you guys enjoy and happy shopping, and let's get into this episode. Hi y'all, happy 2025. We are kicking off the new year with an episode on how to reinvent yourself using routines, hobbies, and habits, okay? Emphasis on the hobbies. I think something that I'm very passionate about is building an entire life, creating an entire life, an entire world for yourself versus just focusing on your career or even just focusing on a relationship or just focusing on, your social life and going out and drinking, whatever it might be. I think it's so important to use the skills and goal setting almost that we learn in typically career development and apply that to every single area of our life. I will never sit here and give you guys all this stuff with career and we need to build these crazy massive jobs and careers and whatever it might be, and not say we need to do that with our own lives. I actually think our own personal lives are even more important, and that's where we're going to find a lot of our fulfillment. If you're lucky enough to have a job that also gives you fulfillment, that's amazing. I think a lot of jobs give you purpose, but they don't always give you fulfillment, and that's okay. I just really want to make sure we are always talking about our lives personally, because where I find a lot of fulfillment, even though I am someone who's very lucky to find a ton of fulfillment in my job, ultimately, I would not be happy if I didn't make the changes that I've made in the past couple of years in my own personal life. So that is why I'm so passionate about talking about, yes, build your career, do everything, achieve what you want to do, go after your dreams, but don't be so busy building a career that you don't build a life. And we're going to be talking about all of that today. So I'm very excited. And of course, we're talking about hobbies because I think that hobbies are genuinely, they're the secret cure and practice to everything. Now, I want to remind y'all, if the new year is overwhelming to you and you're stressed and you don't even want to hear this, and you just need a little comfort listen to where everything's going to be okay. January can be a little bit overwhelming. We do have an episode from last week about January, anti-New Year anxiety, anti-January anxiety. So definitely go check out that episode as well when you need it. But if you are here you're just wanting a little bit of inspo, a little bit of motivation for the new year, I have got you covered. Okay. So the first 3 points that I have are things that are not monumental. They're not necessarily new to the channel, but I do think that they are to the channel, to the podcast. I do think that they are important when it comes to just reinventing yourself. You don't need to become a totally different person. Like, you are completely fine as you are. But if you are someone who wants more for yourself, like that's what I identify with, I think this is a really good listen. No, I think you guys will really like this episode. I do just want to say, at the end of the day, all of this starts with you. You create your world. You are in charge of yourself. You have complete responsibility. You have complete ownership over your life. Yes, things happen that we cannot control. Unfortunately, and this, I have gone through a lot. I'm not saying this like from a place of like an idiot who's like never gone through anything in life. But at the end of the day, like, we have full control over our responses, our reactions, how we want to see the world. Like, it might take, and it will take a lot of other people a lot more work to get there. It's going to take more people more work than me, and, you know, other people less, or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, this might upset people. You do have control over your own life. You are the one in charge. Okay. So let's keep that in mind when we are going into the first step, which is to work backwards. So create your vision board, make it an action board. Create the vision board for what you want in every single aspect of your life. Every single year on my vision board, I actually do like a whole Canva, almost like presentation, where part of it is my career. And then under my career, I'll also do House Guest Podcast, and I'll do my YouTube channel, and then I'll do Friend of Mine. So I'll have like the whole home brand, and I will get really, really, really specific. And then I'll also do my personal life, like the trips that I want to go on with friends, the different people that I really like want to invest more in. I get like really, really specific, different like events that I want to host, book clubs, like just things that are more in my personal life. To give you guys more of an example on what I would do when it comes to like taking something from a vision and making it more like actionable with goals is, for example, my dream for Friend of Mine is to be in anthropology. That's like, since I started Friend of Mine like a year ago, that has been one of my top things that I want. Like, that's my dream retailer, right? So what I have done is well, it's also been kind of easy because like I myself am just such a huge fan of anthropology, and like I'm so obsessed with them, and that's my favorite store in the entire world. But I have created a lot of content for anthropology to kind of like get them to pay attention a little bit more, to utilize that when it comes to Friend of Mine. I create a ton of content around Friend of Mine. It's very nice that Friend of Mine is just such an easy match for anthropology in general, just with it being this home brand that's unique in its gifts and all. It's just more intentional. And then I have created a lot of content around that. I've built a brand that will work for that. I have made connections that will work for that. I've talked to a lot of people, and then I hired a wholesale team. So that's just like one example of one goal that I had. And I had that goal, and I was just like, you know, my father, who is basically at my lad at this point, was like, all right, how are we going to get there? And then I make goals, and then I follow them. It doesn't mean that every single thing on your vision board is going to happen right away. A lot of the time, I have things on my vision board for like a couple years at a time, and until I can take it off the vision board because it's happened. So I think a vision board is really important, but I think it's also very important to get very, very practical and very specific with how we are actually going to achieve those goals. You can't just have a vision board on like your laptop screen and just look at it and think that things are going to happen. You know what I mean? We've got to like take some steps. So that is number one, vision board, very important. And then we're going to start working backwards. So that's making your goals. So if you see yourself and you have this ideal version of your life, in order to get there, you have to have the goals. So we're going to start working backwards. And within those goals, you need to kind of start living how that person would live, which goes into habits and routines. You also need to do, which is step 2, a little life audit, okay? I think oftentimes when people think of a life audit, they're thinking of what I need to cut out of my life. And it is that, but it's also what you need to add into your life. TK and I have told the story a billion times, but I always say we were 19 years old. So this was like 2017. We used to do these cute little like Devo business meetings in the morning weekly. I don't know. We were like actually adorable. And we would sit there, and one week she had us do a little T-chart, and on the left side, we wrote everything that fulfilled us or gave us energy that following week. And then on the right side, we wrote everything from habits to things that we were doing to things we were watching, content we were consuming, friendships that we were around, people that we were around, things that we were going to. Anything that drained us, we put in the right side. So it made me, one, a lot more intentional with how I was spending my time. I noticed how I felt about things, and I don't think I'd ever done that in my life, which is why this practice had been so monumental for me. But it also allowed me to, yes, cut certain things out, or maybe distance myself a little bit from certain people, or stop consuming certain content. You couldn't mute back then. This is like, the arc ages apparently. But I would distance myself a little bit. But what I got even more from it was finding things that actually refueled me and gave me energy so I could focus more on those. Because I think a lot of the time, I always give this example, but I would burn myself out. I didn't have any other hobbies. All I did was focus on work. I had like really nothing to me besides like my career, and that was just like not a good place to be in. So I would be in this weird spot. I would burn myself out, and then once I would burn myself out, I would think, oh, I just need a day to like do nothing. So I would sit in my room with like no light on and watch Netflix all day, thinking that was going to give me energy. And that actually did not give me energy literally at all. Shocker, because that's not something that gives me energy. Again, these are very personal. This could be something that like really gives you energy. It just didn't for me. But something that would give me energy would be, a cozy rot day at home where we listen to the Keaton Milburn episode when we talk about our rot routines, because that's our favorite thing to do together. But I would love to be home where I'm like baking sourdough, or I'm needlepointing, or I'm gardening, and I'm just kind of chilling for the day and just like doing hobbies. And those are things that refuel me. So the next day I actually have more energy, versus when I was doing something that drained me on like a quote rest day, I would just be like so worn out and exhausted for the rest of my life. So that was a good one for me. I think, yes, there are definitely things that you need to get rid of in your life that are standing in the way of the person that you want to be. I don't think it's always people. I think who you surround yourself with is one of the most important things in life for sure. But I also think we use that as a scapegoat to like call everyone toxic or cut them out. And it's not always that. I think we talked about this. I actually in an upcoming episode, sometimes your Jenna party friends become block party friends. Like, absolutely, the people that you surround yourself with make a huge difference. But I think that we are doing ourselves a disservice when that's the only thing we're focusing on. Like, that's the last of it, and we don't care about the other things that we could add. Like, I just think there's so much more to life that we should be auditing than just our relationships. And a lot of those things are still affecting us, and we are, instead of taking responsibility on the things that we're doing, we're throwing them off on people, if that makes any sense. But with that being said, you need to be surrounding yourself with people who are big thinkers. Listen to the big thinker versus small thinker episode. Especially if you have like big career goals, you definitely need to be surrounding yourself with people who are like that. But I like to have like different people in my life for different reasons. There's people in my life that I just really admire their confidence, and I love being around them for that. There's people in my life that I admire their career, and I love to listen to them for that. There's people in my life that I love their marriage, and I want to have a marriage like that one day, so I want to surround myself with them. I just think sometimes the way that we view people and like auditing and who you surround yourself with, I think it's a little bit small-minded at times. But with that being said, there are definitely times where you need to make some changes. So a life audit, but I do kind of think sometimes it's more about what you add than what you delete. And then the next thing that we have, creating your day-to-day. You need to think about your ideal self, who you want to be, and then think about your day-to-day. Days become weeks, weeks become years, years become your life. Okay, that's kind of freaks me out a little bit. But if you want to get there, you need to be doing it day to day. You need to be creating a life of your ideal self. If I'm thinking of my ideal self, it's like someone who has a great marriage and has a great family and loves her career and has a very busy, booked and busy schedule, but also is able to live kind of like this slow life where I'm not so frantic all the time, and there's time to garden and cooking and needle pointing. Like, I want this big life. And so like, what are the things that are going to get me there? And obviously recognizing that like in different seasons of life that will change. But for example, I think a morning routine is like one of the most important things in your life. And for me, I like to get some reading done, I like to get journaling done, and I like to get movement. Those are like the three things I have to have. But when I think about like my ideal self, and I'm getting really specific, it's like she wakes up, she has like a slow wake up, she walks through, I'm like wearing my matching pajama set and my robe and my slippers, like I have my house clean, I'm going and I garden in the morning. You guys get it. It's very, very specific. I schedule in my morning routine. I think you have to. You can't just wake up and like want to do these things. In order to get things done, you have to schedule them in. So I love doing that. I have everything scheduled like down to the wire, which sounds like it takes all the fun out of life, but it really doesn't. It actually gives you more freedom to like actually have fun because you're doing all the things that you want to do. And more than even freedom, it's just allowing those things to happen, you know? Like how many times do we say, oh, I want to do that, and make actually no plans or steps towards that direction? Yeah, it's never going to happen if you don't schedule it in. So get very, very, very specific on your day-to-day. Even like if you are someone who, you know, can kind of create more of your own schedule, you work from home and there's a little bit more freedom, like what is she doing at 3 p.m.? What is she wearing to work? What conversations is she talking about with her friends? Where is she hanging out with her friends? Is it at the bar? Is it at, you know, book club? Is it at like Stitch Club? Is it at like jujitsu? I don't know. Pilates, like whatever it might be. Like think about your ideal self, not just in the morning, throughout the entire day. What is she doing? Your ideal self, by the way, is you. It's not someone to like compare yourself to. But just think about what is that woman doing or man doing and start emulating those things. And that is how very tangibly you will actually start to reinvent yourself and become this person that you want to be. That was what I did in like 2021, 2022. I graduated 2020. I was in college. It was post-grad. I was going out all the time. I was having so much fun. I'm so glad that I did that during that time of my life. But I just got to a point where it felt really redundant, and I just kind of started to feel a little bit like unfulfilled by the things that like I was choosing to do daily and the things that I knew. I feel like my frontal lobe was developing. I really wanted dinner parties, and I wanted book club, and I wanted to do like wholesome things, and I wanted to, you know, go on long walks with friends and just do things that were not just on Henderson in Dallas, Texas. Like I was tired of it. It's not that I don't love that. I still do love that, but it became too much of my life to where it just like wasn't fun anymore. Like I just kind of like got over it. And I think that, by the way, whatever I was doing at that point, I would have gotten tired of it because that was the only thing that I was doing. So I just needed something, and I needed to create a life that was just a little bit more fulfilling, because for me personally, that wasn't fulfilling. But again, like it's so personal. Like make your T-chart, tell me it works, whatever works for you. So I started changing just kind of like my habits. I was already a big reader, so that was already a hobby that I had. And then I'd always wanted to start riding horses when I moved back to Texas. And so I found a ranch that wasn't too far that I could get to pretty easily. So that was actually like a realistic option that I can go to regularly. And now I'm like so close with everyone at that ranch. I talk to them very frequently. I go very often. I am by far their most common rider. Like I'm there all the time, and it's been so amazing for my mental health. And it's been another incredible thing of like surrounding yourself with different hobbies, because I've learned so much even from like the ranch hands there. Like they live a completely different life than me. Like they didn't even have like flip phones on this ranch, right? So hearing them talk about their day-to-day and their ideas and their past and like where they've lived and all of their different practices, their gardening, it's so fascinating to me, and it's just so good for your brain. So I just started to make changes. I wanted to have more of a social life with dinner parties, so I started throwing the dinner parties. I wanted to have a book club, so I created the book club. Like I just started taking steps over time to create the life that I wanted, and over time, like eventually you just kind of look around one day and you realize like I'm actually living in that life. So that's been incredible. Just in the past couple of years, I definitely feel so much more fulfilled than I was feeling at probably 23, 24, 25. And it's just because I have filled my life with the things that I truly love. I think making your life beautiful, like we always talk about this with, you know, our Queen Martha Stewart and Ina Garden, and so many different people who are just really creative. Anyone you watch on like Homeworthy YouTube channel, anyone who's in design, or anyone who's just like a little bit interested in going like the extra step in life, that is more of my vibe. And it's just something that I really, really love and has been great for me. So it's even like the content that you consume. Like I watch like home tours, and I have like my comfort creators. I watch people on TikTok. A lot of it, honestly, pretty much all of it's home. Like I've created this life in this world that like I live in, this bubble that's actually been really nice. But the bubble isn't a bubble because it's like expanding my mind versus just like brain rot, if that makes any sense. And there's definitely brain rot in there, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not like God, but It's just being very intentional with how you spend your time that's made the biggest difference for me. So now, getting to my favorite topic, which would be the hobbies. I have talked about this before, and I will talk about it for the rest of my life. I think one of the most important things about life are hobbies. If you have an interest, go after it. Remember, interesting people are interested, okay? This is another thing TK and I talk about a lot, but people who I love getting dinner with are always learning something new. They're not talking about like dumb high school drama that like I literally do not care about. They're always like adding something to the conversation, adding something to your life, and they're just interesting because they're first interested. They ask questions, they're inquisitive. If they have a question about something, they kind of dive into that. If they want to do something, they do. Interesting people are first interested, okay? And we all want to be interesting people. Now, I want to read something. Class, we have a reading today. It's actually from a needlepoint page. Listen, I talk about needlepoint a lot. It's because I'm like in a needlepoint like hole right now. It's not just needlepoint. This is any hobby, but specifically in the hobbies that I honestly feel like this is any hobby because I really feel like every hobby makes your life more beautiful because it makes your life almost more like reflective of you and you're able to expand and just express yourself in a different way. I read this. It's from Lisette. I don't know if it's Lisette or Lisette. Lisette, I think it is. Palm Beach needlepoint shop. And she wrote this. And I think this is applicable to a lot of different hobbies and I actually really, really loved it. She said, while I do experience periods of not needlepointing, I am fortunate that despite I can't believe I'm reading off like a needlepoint thing to you guys right now, but hear me out. Give me a second, okay? I am fortunate that despite needlepoint being my job, I still adore the craft. On less busy days, I spend an hour needlepointing, while on days packed with to-dos, I may only stitch a strand or two. This is the part that I love, okay? Needlepoint is cozy. It's dedicating time to focus on one thing. It's also fabulous for mental health. Lately, it's even become a way to meet fellow needlepointers. No longer is needlepointing solitary. It is a community that grows every day. In a world where there is so much busyness and so much noise, needlepoint anchors me to a world of taking my time, a world of quality over quantity, a world of color and creativity. Needlepoint is grounding, it is comforting and slow. When I meet fellow needlepointers, we often get along quite naturally. Conversation flows from our beloved furry family members to the men and women who taught us to needlepoint, to our favorite recipe, the last great dinner party we hosted or attended. We chat the books we can't put down and our favorite Substacks. More than anything, I notice that the topics of conversation focus on activities that take time. Nothing a needlepointer does is fast. I love that most needlepointers still read magazines and newspapers. They bake from passed down cookbooks, and when they needlepoint, they cozy into a well-worn quilt. They take pride in decorating their homes and bringing beauty into their spaces and communities. Needlepointers are also some of the most intelligent people I have ever met. I'm constantly inspired by the men and women who visit Lisette. I hope it's pronounced that way. They are well-read and focused on self-improvement. They run marathons. I'm like, I ran a 10K, so. They attend the theater and concerts. They volunteer, and they travel to the most interesting places. Needlepoint does not define them, but rather needlepoint is a small but beloved part of a robust life. Exactly what I'm saying, guys. Whenever I am in a needlepoint rut, I head to this shop. And she just basically comes to like most of my color palette. It's just like inspiration from different clients. Talking about the growth of the store. While I do needlepoint for mental health benefits and because I love anything done by hand, I really needlepoint because y'all keep inspiring me to. The most wonderful part about needlepoint is those who needlepoint. And I think that's such a good thing. There's so many things that I actually want to say because I feel like she really said, I hope this is a woman, by the way, I'm not quite sure, but I hope that she really said a lot of the things that I felt. Another thing too, when it comes to creating the life that you want to live, I think so much of everything starts in the home, right? And I always say like a home should be two things. One, it should look like you, and two, it should tell a story. And that is why I love I love creating things in a lot of hobbies. And I love that it takes a long time. I love that it connects me with different generations. I have people that I talk to like regularly who are in their 60s, which is what I've always wanted. It's connected my grandma and I. My grandma and I have always been so close. My God, you guys know her. But we have hobbies that we do together. We garden together. We needlepoint together. My stepsister's gotten into it. I've been playing Mahjong lately, which I'm obsessed with. My family has gotten into it. It connects you with different generations that you can learn from in ways that you wouldn't have before. It's very mindful, so you're able to actually relax and focus on something. It tells a story. it just overall makes your life so much interesting. I'm not just talking about needlepoint, I mean like every single hobby. So I think it's actually incredible. I also wrote down, or I took a screenshot from the Google on AI, or the AI on Google, and I Googled the benefits of having hobbies, all right? The science behind hobbies being good for you lies in their ability to stimulate the brain's reward system, releasing chemicals like dopamine, which create feelings of pleasure and happiness, ultimately leading to reduced stress, improved mood, and enhanced overall well-being. Essentially, doing activities that you enjoy triggers a positive neurological response in the brain. There's a dopamine release, stress reduction, cognitive stimulation, self-esteem boost, helps your confidence, social connection, better physical health often, improves your memory, boosts cognitive function, better work performance, they decrease stress, we already said that, boost creativity. It's just so good for your brain, but it's just so good for you in every single area of your life. And if you're wanting this life, I think you really build it a lot through hobbies. How I actually even started to like prioritize hobbies in my own life was I read The Defining Decade when I was probably like 23, which is like famously what I thought was going to be the worst year of my life. Joke was on 23-year-old me, But anyways, I read this book and I was feeling very, very lost and very stuck. And again, it was because the only thing I really had built was a career. I always had friends, don't get me wrong, but I hadn't built like a life outside of that. And they talked about this thing called identity capital. And basically the idea is that you create your own, like you don't find yourself, you create yourself. So with identity capital, it's really just a culmination of like all the different like interests and hobbies and things that you do. And that's kind of how you build yourself into the person that you want to be. And that was when I started to think, wow, I really want to actually like have hobbies and dive into that. And truly that is what gives me so much fulfillment in my life. My mind doesn't wander as much into like negative overthinking of either situations or just dwindling or just going down a spiral, because my mind is so filled with like all of these things that I want to create and I'm so inspired by it. Especially for me, it's things in the home. Like I went to Framebridge, guys. The first time I went in store to Framebridge, I've been a Framebridge customer for years and years and years. I ordered from them like when I lived in LA, so a long time. The first time I went in person to a store was the one they opened in Dallas, and you would have thought that was the best 2 hours that I've had all of 2024, honest to God. And I was in there, and it was like all the different mats and the different frames and the photos, and like something about creating these, and a lot of it came down to like all of the photos were a story. It meant something to me. It was going to be something that I could have in my home. I was like building this life in my home. There was something about it, and like it literally made me come alive. Now that's not going to make everyone come alive. I understand that, but it's finding those things for you. So some of my hobbies, as we know, needle pointing, reading, cooking, sourdough, dinner parties. You guys already know all of these things. They have so dramatically improved my quality of life and given me like even just like the opportunity and space to like even be able to reinvent myself in the first place. And I think actually that has been the most impactful thing that I've ever done when it comes to like quote reinventing myself or even just creating the life that you want to live. So much of it comes down to hobbies. It helps so much with confidence. If you want to do something, do it. Even if you have to do it alone, that's fine. That's great for character development, okay? But we always say on this podcast, I don't think I've gotten through a podcast episode without saying this, confidence is built by making promises to yourself and keeping them. And having a hobby is a very easy way to do that because you're making promises to yourself and just appointments with yourself and doing them. And over time, you're able to create something and see what you were able to do and able to like improve on something or learn something, whatever that might be. They're very, 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 very linked to confidence. So ultimately, this is what I leave y'all with today. Confidence is not, I'm kidding, but ultimately, in order to reinvent yourself and to live the life that you want to live, create the vision board, create the goals, work backwards, create your day-to-day. Days become weeks, weeks become years, years become your life. And then also make sure that you are not just focusing on your own career. You need to focus on every single aspect of your life and making your life this beautiful life that you actually want to live, because you can do that. These things are not always things that cost money. Like a lot of these things actually do not do that. It's just about your day-to-day. It all starts with you. I'm really excited to see all the vision boards. I hope that you guys have vision board parties. If you are someone who wants to like host something and you're listening to this, first piece of homework for you, host a vision board making night at your house. It's very inexpensive. You can get like old magazines and newspapers that you've never used, have people bring their own, sit there, maybe have like a glass of wine or make like a lemonade if you're doing dry January. You know what you should get if you're doing dry January, by the way? Dissoir. It is my favorite drink ever. There's like adaptogens. Like, oh my God, I've really not been the biggest drinker in the past like year or two, and Dissoir has like been my thing. So anyways, do a vision board night like with your friends and get around. And I think it's nice too to like communicate with your friends and people around you so they know your dreams and your aspirations, so they're able to like hold you accountable and kind of push you in that way. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I wanted to keep it a little short and sweet for our good old solo podcast episode. In the new year, I know I talked about this on the last episode, but in case you guys missed it, I'm adding 2 series. We're bringing back book club, first off, okay? If you guys want to read along, read the book, get involved, all the information is on the House Guest Instagram. It's all there. Read the book, listen along. I love like talking about books. I love a book podcast. Like, we just got to bring it back. I miss it. I want you guys to be like more involved in the show. Like, I want you guys to be like tuned in. So we're bringing back book club. It's going to be every 6 weeks. I'm very excited about it. And then we're adding a new series, which is going to be the dinner party series, which kind of goes back to when I used to do those roundtable episodes where I would bring back different guests and we would do like a roundtable. It'd be 3 or more guests. Now, I always did those in the studio, but I'm very excited because we're going to be doing them at my house. Dinner party. Now listen, I have, what is it, misophonia or whatever? I can't listen. God forbid I listen to someone chew. It actually, like, I grew up with 8 siblings, so I'm shockingly very low maintenance because, like, I had no other option other than to be, like, low maintenance and not really care about things. But that is the one thing in life that makes me, like, I can't do it. I literally cannot do it. So with that being said, we're not going to be eating. We'll have a cute little setup. We'll have some drinks. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited for that episode. I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. And we're going to start posting the YouTube videos to my main YouTube channel. So that's exciting. Yeah, that's really it for this podcast episode. I hope you guys are feeling a little bit motivated, a little inspired. These are just the things that I have to tell myself, or my dad, who is otherwise known as Ed Milet, is always telling me. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. And that's it. I just keep talking and talking, and I don't need to do that. We do have new merch out. I'll shut up now. Love y'all, and I will talk to you in the next episode.